A fantasy baseball preview. The Orioles are selling, and the top 5 DHs in Major League Baseball for 2024. Welcome to a banger of an episode. February 2nd. It is Friday here on the Just Baseball Show. You got Arm Layton. I'm Peter Apple, and it's all brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Remember to use code JustBaseball to get that $158 in bonus bets, ladies and gentlemen. What are we doing? Why are we just sitting here and not putting $5 down? Using code JustBaseball, and then you get $158 for Super Bowl 58. You are leaving free money on the table if you do not take advantage of this offer. You can find it in the episode description. Remember, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older, and terms and conditions apply. Aram, we have too much to talk about to worry about how our lives are outside of the podcast. Let's get straight into the Orioles are selling. Amazing, but
yes,
it's not quite happening yet. And the Angelos family hasn't even come out publicly and say they are actually selling. But we have sources, we have reports that finally the Baltimore Orioles might spend some money.
Yeah, well, it's funny that like you hear the Orioles are selling, and generally you'd think like the first thought is, oh my gosh, wait, they won, they led the league in wins last year in the American League. Why would they subtract from the team? No, they're selling the organization, the franchise is going to be sold, which is great because John Angelos is respectfully, not honestly, not that respectfully, one of the most insufferable owners in the sport. I mean, we saw the things that went on last year with their broadcast team and the frustration of not spending when you have such a talented ball club. And the report is that it's a pair of private equity guys that are going to go and potentially buy this franchise for $1.725 billion. And first of all, it sounds like a great deal considering the Marlins sold for $1.2 billion a while back now. Second of all, these are private equity guys that have just been able to make money on a lot of different things. They're very clever. They're serial entrepreneurs that David Rubenstein, I'm pretty sure, like bought the Magna Carta and then there are like aspects of the Magna Carta and then made money off of that and built a whole exhibit around. Like these guys are always looking for opportunities to invest. And I think they probably saw the Orioles, saw the stadium, saw what's going on, saw what they're building and said, dude, let's just take advantage of an opportunity here and let's build this franchise into what it should actually be, which is a major player in the sport in terms of spending, market, and of course just perpetual competitiveness with what's been built top to bottom. So I think this is one of the, if you could make like a power rank, Peter, of like teams that would be better off with a new owner, they're up there. Obviously the A's are going to be number one, but the Orioles are right up there in terms of franchises in MLB that I would like to see have a new owner. So this is great news for Orioles fans and great news for the sport.
And talk about just the people that are coming in, right? The potential new ownership group. You have David Rubenstein, who is the co-founder and co-chairman of the Carlyle Group, which manages $382 billion from 28 offices around the world. Number two, Michael Bloomberg, who has a net worth of $96.3 billion. And then you have Michael Arougheti, co-founder, CEO, president of Ares Management Corp, manages $341 billion in assets. He's a billionaire by net worth. And Cal Ripken Jr. So you have a bunch of the
Smart to have him involved.
Wealthy people, humanly possible, teaming up with Cal Ripken. It has an element of Magic Johnson coming in with the Dodgers. It's not exact, but look at what the Dodgers have become. And if we're talking about a new ownership group who is now willing to spend money with a team coming off a 100-win season, a team with the no doubt best farm system in baseball, if I am an Orioles fan right now, I have to be really, really happy. The one thing is about John Angelos, yes, he hasn't spent any money, and it has been incredibly infuriating, but I don't think it's been all bad because they have invested money in the international bonus pool, right? They've been signing free agents. They have been at least investing in the farm system. I'm not trying to say that he's good. I'm just trying to say that I don't think they're moving on from a John Fisher in Oakland, right?
I think Angelos is pretty hated in Baltimore, though. I think it's beyond the money too. I think it's the way he he kind of operates, and in the way that that franchise was kind of has been run, and the environment. I mean, Angelos has been sued by his own brother. So it's
Not
just like
ideal.
he's a certain kind of guy. And again, just what happened with the broadcast booth last year, I think was really eye opening. Of like, you can't say anything remotely. It wasn't even negative about the team. And we saw what happened with what was it, Kevin Smith getting suspended. So it's just it's a unique situation where I just feel like it can only be better. I don't know much about these guys. You gave a little bit of a background. They're got to be better than what they've had with Angelos in terms of just, I think, engaging with the community, being well liked, and people being more excited to support the Baltimore Orioles. So yeah, it hasn't been as bad as the A's or some other situations as you mentioned, but I do think a change here is very welcomed by the Baltimore Orioles fans. And I think a big part of it is he also, owning Masson, there was just a lot of control and a lot of unique things. And Kevin Brown, I should say, Kevin Brown just being suspended and that whole situation really soured me on the way that Angelos goes about his business. I know that they've been restrictive of certain media members in the past. Like I'm just like excited for a new and refreshed Baltimore Orioles where we can just enjoy the team on the field. I don't want to know who the owners are. I don't want to hear about the owners. I was hearing way too much about John Angelos.
Couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, I guess I am just impressed with more Mike Elias than I guess I am
Yes.
John Angelos, right? I'm
Yes.
giving John Angelos some credit for just simply hiring Mike Elias and what Mike Elias has done with this farm system. Now, Mike Elias has been scared is the wrong word, but
No, it's not the wrong word.
he has been
Yeah.
very hesitant to trade from this incredible influx of prospects, and he's been hesitant. And that hesitancy this offseason could end up biting the Orioles in the butt. We don't know. But what I am excited about is when this ownership group does take over, we hope, right? Because it's going to be months before it's officially approved. It's got to be approved by, the board, the other owners, right? They have to approve this.
I think they
It's
will.
going, I think they will as well. There's going to be a lot of time before this. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, oh, they're sold. Now the Orioles are going to go trade for Dylan Cease or Corbin Burns or any of these guys.
No.
No, I think it's going to take another year. But the most exciting part about this is now you're going to give Mike Elias money. What is he going to do now? Is that hesitancy down to his core? And even with money, he won't make that move to get them finally over the top? Or are we going to unlock a demon version of Mike Elias?
Yeah.
What if he
Which would be
starts
fun.
getting crazy and starts ended up being one of the best general managers in the sports? Because no one can debate his ability to develop a farm system. Now, I know he's had a couple of number one picks. It helps when you get Jackson Holiday number one. But at the time, Jackson Holiday was not the favorite to go number one, right?
No.
Adley
No.
Rutschman certainly was, but he
Yeah.
didn't screw that up. But it's the Kobe Mayos of the world. It's the
Yeah.
Norbies. It's the Luis Ortiz. It's the Colton Cowsers. The guys who
Uh,
didn't go number one
Samuel
overall.
Basayo and IFA. Gunnar Henderson was not a top 30 pick, right? There's a lot of instances where they're key pieces. They've been able to identify these guys, and it's been really impressive. So, no, I'm excited because I feel like maybe with a little bit more of a budget, he won't be as nervous to misuse an asset, right? And when you're not spending money, you got to operate really carefully. You got to operate like the Rays. Every asset matters. You got to legitimately maximize every drop that you've got. But when you have a little bit of money, it can bail you out of spots. And that's why you see the Dodgers build sustainable talent from top to bottom of the organization, but they're okay trading prospects away because one, they're confident that they can replenish, and two, they're confident that they can bail themselves out when they need to in free agency and also make trades where they can extend guys. It's less enticing to make these trades when you can't extend the guy. When you can go get a glass now and then immediately extend him, it's a lot more palatable to go part with those key pieces because now you got him as part of your franchise for 8 years instead of the 1.5 or 2 years of control. So I'm with you. I hope that this creates a more aggressive Mike Elias, which would be really fun because they've got by far baseball's best farm system.
I think baseball is maybe the one industry where we're getting excited about private equity guys entering the space.
Yeah,
It's like,
I'll take
yes,
anything. I'll
more
take if they spend,
billionaires.
give it to me. Yeah,
Yeah,
more,
just give
more,
it to me.
more of them.
I
Fine.
know it's so funny. Orioles are like, yeah, bring me more bank money. I want
Yeah,
more oil money in my team.
I don't think they care where the money comes from at this point. I mean, because they're so close. So I'm fascinated to see how it all shakes out.
Well, Orioles fans should be over the moon, excited. Get Mike Elias some money and let's see what he turns into. Could be a demon. I'm very, very excited. The top 5 DHs for the 2024 MLB season. We got it all on justbaseball.com. We already gave you the top 5 utility players on Wednesday's episode. Now it's time for Aram and I to tackle the DHs. Of course, we have our 2 honorable mentions. And if you're listening to this, the article is out now on justbaseball.com. You can follow along, you can read the analysis, right? But I like to use this time to argue. On the last episode, I said people that rank Jeff McNeil as the number 1 utility guy probably think that eggs are spicy and that Wonder Bread toast with butter is a great meal. Me, on the other hand, I don't. And it's fun to just get into a back and forth. With the DHs, it's a little bit harder because it's kind of set in stone, but Arm and I will do our best. So let's start with the 2 honorable mentions. We got Eloy Jimenez from the Chicago White Sox and Jorge Soler, who is currently a free agent. Both big power bats. Eloy, we know if he played a full season, he'd probably be at 40 home runs. However,
We've said that for several years now. Yeah.
we've said that for several years now. Jorge Soler, on the other hand, 36 jacks, but that's how good the top 5 DHs is. So do you want to handle the odds and I'll handle the evens?
Yeah, I will. So, well, first of all, with Soler, this is a guy that just like confuses me. I want to just like discuss him very quickly because he's better when he's DHing, but he was forced to play the outfield more than he should. He has a back issue, like, and it's weird. Like I almost in the DH role, it's like you don't get any reward for playing more outfield, because we don't care. We're ranking DHs. It's all about the bat. So I don't know. Where are you at on a Soler? Because there's a reason why he's not signed right now. And there's a reason why the Marlins didn't give him a qualifying offer. Like he's a weird case considering that he's had years where he is one of the best power bats in the sport. He's had years where he's brutal. And now he got a couple years in between. Like, you think he's just settling in between now?
I think he's settling in between. I also don't know what the market is for a 31-year-old DH.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's what teams are trying to figure out, right? Because he's not a model of health. He's not a model of consistency either. But when you see him put it together, he's one of the best power hitters in Major League Baseball, point blank, period. So I think it's just, do we want to lock into this guy for 3 years?
And weather the storm? Like, yeah, it could. And the answer is no. Like, the answer is I don't want to sign up for that for multiple years because I don't feel confident that it's going to continuously be good. It might be one really good year, and then there's another year where he's killing us, right? Like my DH that I'm paying 15, 20 million is killing me. So I'm with you on that. And I think that's why he's going to end up getting maybe a 1 or 2 year deal and, maybe with opt-outs.
And I'm not saying that this guy is a perfect comparison, but we just saw a guy like Teoscar Hernandez sign a 1-year, $23 million with $8.5 million of it deferred, right? Because the Dodgers just defer it just to shove it at our faces, right? Yeah. So is that a type contract that a player like Jorge Soler will get this offseason?
I think less. I think he'll probably get less.
Because
at least Teoscar can play some defense. Yeah, I know he doesn't, but you want to jump into it though? So you want me to take number 5?
Yeah, I guess just on Eloy real quick, right? He's coming off a year where he played the most amount of games, most amount of plate appearances since his rookie season in 2019. 120 games though, right? 489 plate appearances. That's his most since his rookie year in 2019. We know the talent, 118 career, WRC plus, 811 OPS, plenty of bombs, just not staying healthy, right? If he was playing 160, if you told me that next year, yeah, I'm having him on my top 5. The thing is, we've just never seen that.
That's the thing. And it's a projection, we're ranking for 2024. So it's, if I have to pick somebody who I think is going to have a better year for next year, yes, Eloy could have a much better season than number 5, JD Martinez. I think there's a lot of scenarios where his ceiling is higher. But if you run 100 simulations or 1,000 simulations, I think there's going to be more where JD Martinez is just giving you more production because we've seen it. And we've seen it, consistently. And I think JD having that down year 2 years ago and then bouncing back the way that he did this past season is what really solidified him at number 5. And I had him at number 4. And reminder for those that may not have heard the last episode, it's aggregated across our staff. So, we each gave our individual rankings and then it averaged out. And I had him at 4. You were a little bit lower on JD, so I'm interested to kind of hear your perspective on it. But 4 was the most common ranking. Jack had him at 4. I had him at 4. Fink had him at 4. Leo did not even have him ranked, and Colby had him at 5. You had him at 7. I understand it because he's 36, and 2 years ago was rough, but last year was really solid. 271, 321, 572 slash line, 33 bombs, 103 driven in, a 135 WRC plus. The guy's just kind of hit his whole career, except for a couple years ago, and I just feel like he's going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I think when I was ranking these DHs, while I ranked him 7, and that might seem kind of glaring, right? You have him outside your top 5. You think he should be an honorable mention. I think a lot of these guys are fairly similar. And the reason I rank JD a little bit lower is I think a lot of the bats that we have arguably more upside. I would say JD has a higher floor just because when he goes to the ballpark every day, the guy just hits, and he's proven that for a really long time. I'm just wondering what an age 36, 37 season for him looks like, right? Are we going to see 30 plus home runs again? Are we going to see a 135 WRC plus again? Right? I'm not trying to bet against JD Martinez. That's why when I ranked him at 7, it was more he was in a cluster, and the age thing kind of just took me a little bit out of him. And the fact that right now, right, what kind of contract is he going to get? What do you pay JD Martinez? Right. And I was thinking, well, Jorge Soler is probably going to get a bigger contract. If Eloy was on the open market, he'd probably get a bigger contract. That's why I ranked him just a little bit lower. But at the same time, they're all kind of in that cluster. I'm
Yeah.
not willing to just jump on and there's more guys who I want to argue about later. If you told me JD Martinez should be 5, sure. That's why I never
Yeah.
had a complaint about it.
Yeah. And like also, like, I think those other guys get a larger contract because they're younger. If they're all getting a 1-year deal, I'd I'd give JD more than I'd give Soler in a 1-year deal going into next year. Eloy would be interesting. It'd be like how risky do you want to get? How risk tolerant are you? I could lean towards the upside of Eloy, building off of a year where he played 120 games, as you mentioned. Like, okay, if he does it again, I think he could put up a better offensive season. But with my DH, I'm so paranoid of them. If you don't hit, like, you're actually useless. So I feel very confident that JD's gonna at least hit pretty well.
And that's more than fair. I personally think I might have ranked him too low. I think I might have ranked him too low because he is safe, right? At the same time, he's getting older. He saw his hard hit rate up 13.4%, 98th percentile in barrel rate, hard hit rate, average exit velocity. Still hitting the piss out of the ball. I think I ranked him too low. First mistake by me ever. Happens to all of
Ever.
us. Ever.
Yeah. Now you're 1 million for 1,000,001.
Yeah, no, I've much more than one mistake. If you didn't sense the sarcasm for anybody listening. Number 4 on the top 5 DHs list, Marcell Ozuna of the Atlanta Braves. I mean, what do you want me to say? The guy raked last year. 40 bombs, 100 driven in, a 139 WRC plus. I ranked him here at 4. Arm, you were a little bit lower on him.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, he's
He
a
broke my
guy
brain, I'll
who,
be honest with you.
yeah,
It was
I
really
mean,
tough. I mean,
I don't personally want to praise the guy a ton. We know what his pass
yeah.
is off the field. You can say whatever you want about it. We don't really talk about that kind of stuff here on the Just Baseball show. The year was objectively great. Why'd you rank him a little bit lower?
I, so we talked about it. It's like we also factor in the year before, and that's why I understand your JD ranking, because the year before was not good. But of course, you're going to weight the most recent year heavier. Like, it's gonna matter more. But if you have a putrid 2 years ago and then an unbelievable last year, it just kind of broke my brain. And the thing with him, though, also 2021 was injury riddled. He didn't look great. And I wonder what his chances are of doing this again at 33. Maybe they're high. maybe he'll be really good again. I mean, 40 home runs is unbelievable. He's hitting the living crap out of the ball. It's pretty hard to argue against what he did. And I think he's one of those guys as well where you could kind of make a case that he could go, you know, higher or even a little bit lower. But what I like about him as a hitter is that he clearly made some adjustments. He clearly found something and just rolled with it. The thing is, he's just always been so volatile, and that volatility is tough. Um, but there's another one where like if we sit long enough, you could probably talk me into bumping him up. But I just if again going into next year, I just feel a lot safer with the guy that we have ranked ahead of him. But damn, man, a 139 WRC plus, he selects 558. I also think that it's just bizarre that he had the best year of his career at 32 and offensively is at least. And I don't know if he repeats it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, it was funny when I was ranking these guys, like they're all kind of in a similar cluster. They're all 30 plus. Some of them are coming off great years. Some of them, were a little bit injured, like Soler, 36 bombs. Marcell Ozuna, 40 bombs. JD Martinez, 33, but they're all a little bit older and they haven't repeated this a ton of times in a row. So that's why I felt like this was in a cluster, right?
Yeah.
If you told me you like JD over Marcell Ozuna, I'd be like, all right. If I told you I like Marcell Ozuna over JD, I think you have the same reaction.
Yeah.
Correct?
Dude, we have a 172 game sample of 2021 and 2022
Where
where
he's
the dude
terrible.
hit 222, 278, 397. There were conversations had about swapping bad deals for Marcell Ozuna and Avisail Garcia. Like that was a conversation had. Like, well, maybe we should just exchange bad contracts here and get change of scenery. Um, I'm sure the Marlins are kicking themselves for not picking that one up.
I think the Marlins are kicking themselves for a lot.
Yes, but at the same time, there's the optic side of it. So, but just from a baseball standpoint, I mean, he was one of the worst hitters, because he's not giving you any defensive value there. Like he was a negative WAR guy. He was an 85 WRC plus over a span of nearly 200 games. So yes, 144 games most recently were unbelievable, and I'm going to weight that a little bit more, or even a decent bit more. That's why he's number 4. That's why he's ahead of JD Martinez, who's been really good for pretty much a larger span of time. And even his down year was not as bad as Ozuna's, down years over the last couple years before, 2023. So he was probably the most difficult player for me to rank though, because I do feel like there's so much effort in that swing. One little twinge or injury again, I could just see him kind of getting in a rut. And he just seems to be so streaky.
I just think it's so funny that he hit 40 home runs this season, put up this 900 OPS. But in the first month of the season, he hit 091, 206, 218 with a 28.5% strikeout rate. And then
It's
post All-Star break, hit over 300 with an OPS over 1,000 while slugging nearly 650.
it's
Just
just
went on a
insane.
tear.
It's insane. And I will say too, though, it's less about Ozuna and more about like who is ahead. Because like it became just too hard to push the top three, anyone in the top three outside of the top three. And that's kind of what leads us into number 3.
Exactly. Like that's why I think like 4 to 7, we all had the same players, except for Leo. We
Yeah.
all had the same players. It was just kind of like, who do you believe in? And the
Yeah.
way I ranked it, I was like, well, JD, at some point, it just has to stop, right? Everyone has been showing the same type of power, right? Jorge Soler, Eloy, at least in a limited amount of time, but he is younger. Then Marcell Ozuna is coming off the best season of all of them. And I was kind of like, you know what? I guess I'll rank the old guy last, even though he might be the safest. But that brings us into number 3 and the definitive top 3
Yeah.
DH.
The clean sweep number 3, Kyle Schwarber. Three's number 3 across the board. And just I think the focus here is what separates Kyle Schwarber from Marcell Ozuna. And for me, it's like I think that Ozuna is going to be a little bit better bat to ball. Obviously, he's going to hit for more average. He's going to give you more doubles and mix other things in. But I want my DHs to mash. And Schwarber now 3 straight seasons of well above average, offense. When we just look at WRC plus 2021 a 145 WRC plus, 2022 a 129 WRC plus, and last year by pretty much every measure aside from the total of home runs, was a down year for Schwarber. Yeah, it was like he was a little bit frustrated and was probably off of his game a little bit, and he hits 47. some of these other guys being off their game a little bit, they're not able to still, mix in those home runs and leave the yard and draw the walks like Schwarber does. And that's the thing is Schwarber, even when he's slumping, he's still going to hit you 2 home runs in a week, and he's still going to get on base at a 350 clip or a 340 clip. Maybe when he's slumping, it's 300. I don't care. Like that when he's playing poorly, he's still getting on base 3 out of 10 times and leaving the yard a couple times a week. And that's what really stands out to me about Schwarber. You got 93 home runs over the last 2 seasons, which is absolutely outrageous. He's been, and I know it's DH, and he's actually had to play more outfield than he deserves. That also factored into it for me. Like this guy had to play 103 games in the outfield. Now, this coming season, the goal is for him to play no games in the outfield. And I think those games in the outfield probably affected him at the plate a little bit. His legs just maybe being a little bit more jello under him, not being as powerful. And that may have impacted, just the consistency offensively. So for him to still do what he did while getting thrown into a situation that he, hasn't been in a couple years. And now I know going into 2024, he's going to be in the field way less. I only think that's going to be better for him offensively. And when you look at it through that lens, again, we're always projecting here for 2024. I just think it's way more likely that he's going to be a better hitter than Marcell Ozuna in 2024. Also considering he's several years younger and all that good stuff as well. But I also just liked what I saw from him down the stretch. I thought he looked a lot more comfortable, and I think he's going to be a massive year for him in 24.
And you mentioned all the regular season stuff. And I mean, he is just a power wind turbine when it comes to the regular season in terms of just smacking balls over the right field fence. But I love Kyle Schwarber because when the lights turn on, Kyle Schwarber is there. Talking
Yeah.
about a postseason OPS. He's played 65 games in the postseason, 259 plate appearances, a 931 OPS. He has 20 home runs in his postseason career in those 65 games. Kyle Schwarber has now passed Reggie Jackson for the most home runs by a left-handed hitter in baseball history. At 19, he passed Reggie Jackson. Now he's got 20. So you get all of the regular season success. You get the 40 bombs a year. But then when the lights are on, you can rely on Kyle Schwarber putting your team up one with a leadoff bomb because
Yep.
I think it's hilarious that he hits leadoff. But it
Which is also a lot of responsibility.
I
And
know.
the other thing that stood out to me was second half, man, he just it clicked for him. 98 WRC plus in the first half, 144 WRC plus in the second half. So it just really got going for him, spilled into the playoffs, and I think he's going to carry that momentum and have a massive year in 2024.
And at number 2, Yordan Alvarez is our second ranked DH on this list. I was just watching Oppenheimer, Aram, and
Yeah.
at the intro, they say, Prometheus brought fire to the world and then was tortured for eternity. Yordan Alvarez has brought the fire to Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
This man is what? The second best hitter in Major League Baseball? The third? Whatever. Maybe the first. He wasn't even really healthy all season long. So the power was less for Yordan Alvarez's standards at 31 home runs.
Yeah, he only slugged 583.
A 170 WRC plus. And I just think it's amazing he's putting up a 4.5 F4 as a DH and bad outfielder. Like he is a special bat.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to number 1, and I think everybody knows who number 1 is. Where do you rank him in terms of best hitters in baseball? Because I think it's like you're splitting hairs. Like, is he better than Judge? Is he better than Ohtani? Is he better than Acuna? Is he better than Mookie or Freddie? He might be. I don't know. They're all the best of the best.
As just a hitter, like you could make the case that he's right there with anybody, right? And that's why it's so weird to rank him number 2,
Yeah.
in the DH spot. But again, you're going to know who number 1 is, and actually had a better WRC plus than him, maybe the only person who did. But I would say it depends on how you want to define what makes a hitter better or worse. Because like there's so many different ways to get to that 170 WRC plus, right? We're looking at a Ronald Acuna who hit 337 and gets to that, 170 WRC plus, and it did so many different things across the board. His 73 stolen bases also, underratedly contribute to that too. But then you look at what you get from somebody like Jordan. It's like you're going to get similarly hitting for average, hitting for power, driving and runs. We know he's one of the most clutch hitters on the planet. I almost put those guys in like one bucket together. Like Freeman and Jordan are so similar, but Jordan absolutely demolishes baseballs, probably gives you a little bit more power. But then Freeman still somehow backs into a 567 slug because he hits more doubles than anybody and mixes in enough home runs. So it's really hard for me, but I would say you put him up there with just about anybody and in terms of just hitting, and you got a strong argument. I still think that a healthy Judge is kind of on his own level at this point. We've seen this over the last year and a half now, where I just think he can do things at a pace that just nobody can really do. But in terms of like complete hitter, I'd put Jordan up there with anyone.
Do you think Jordan can win the MVP this season? Just
Yeah.
point blank. I was going to give you a
Yeah,
more
I
worded
do. I
question.
do. I do. I think he can because look, he's the fact that he even plays some outfield is interesting. I don't know what their plan's going to be with him. It's going to be really hard to win it as a DH. So I don't know how much outfield he's going to play, how much he's going to DH. But I mean, the dude put up a 185 WRC plus in 2022 and a 170 this past year. Like,
He
if
got
Judge
worse.
is banged up, I think he can do it. How do you not win it with like a 190 if he does that this year? I mean, he was a 7-win player in 135 games in 2022. So imagine he plays 20 more games. And he only played 114 games in 2023, and he was a 4.5-win player. If we can get 150 games of Jordan playing at this level, he's probably an 8-win player, 7.5-win player, just almost off the back of his offense alone. How is that not an MVP? It would take somebody else just playing out of their mind. So I think he very easily could win it.
It's incredible. Now I was just looking at the MVP odds on BetMGM, and I noticed that he was a little bit low. And I was like, I can definitely picture Jordan Alvarez with a 300, 400, 500 slash line with 45 bombs, 130 driven in, and an 8 F war.
And how
And
does that
that's
not
like
win?
not crazy.
No. And the only way that doesn't win is if Judge judges
Or
like
J
the
Rod
way he's done.
has J Rod
Yeah, or J Rod
goes,
goes.
the same thing, or because Otani is now gone, which kind of brings us into number one.
Yes. Which I mean, how are you gonna rank anybody? And like the pitching is irrelevant to this too, by the way. We're just talking about the hitter in a vacuum. And the hitter in a vacuum, just Shohei Otani, the designated hitter that we're gonna get in 2024. Just from what we've seen, he just keeps getting better and better and better. And now I'm very fascinated by what Shohei Otani only worrying about hitting is going to look like. Of course, he's going to be rehabbing and getting himself good to go, and it'll be a focus for him. But not preparing for a start every fifth day, not also hitting while you pitch every fifth day. I wonder how maybe it's almost analysis paralysis and it'll be counterproductive, but I'd be willing to bet that knowing Shohei Otani and the way that he goes about his business, it's only going to help him. And I think he's only going to be more dangerous and more consistent offensively. And look, the guy hit 304, 412, 654 last year. And I think what stands out the most about this past season and that really separates him as the number one guy is he showed that he can slug with Jordan. If anything, right now he's shown that he can outslug Jordan. And
Crazy.
now he's showing that he can hit for average as well. Because Jordan, that was kind of the edge he always had, right? Oh, you're guaranteed high 200s, low 300s batting average. Well, Otani's whiff rates, would usually imply that he's not going to be able to flirt with 300, but he hits the ball hard and hits so many pitches high in the zone that no one can usually get to that he hit 304 last year, dude. Like he walked at a 15% clip. So career high walk rate, career low strikeout rate, hits over 300, over on base percentage over 400 for the first time. And he hit 44 bombs. If he hadn't gone down with the elbow issue, he probably flirts with 50, 55 homers. So I think it's just a no-brainer. What he figured out offensively last year to be able to limit the whiff a little bit now too. We already knew he could slug with the best of them. Now he's a complete hitter, and that's scary as hell.
That is terrifying. And you forgot the biggest point about what
He's
makes Shohei
fast.
Otani great is he's fast. 20 steals. It's amazing. He's got the triples. He's got the
Yep.
stolen bases. He's also fast.
8 triples.
8 triples. 8 of them. in
That
20.
is a factor. I mean, like if we're talking about hitters who are identical,
Yeah,
and I think Shohei still has the edge a little bit, but let's say they were identical, that's going to be a separator, right? He steals 20 bags and he's going to be more effective and more valuable on the base paths. We're not talking about defense, but DHs have to run the bases.
I just think it's amazing that he steals 20 bases. I'm going to just keep talking about it over and over again because when I look, right, when we go to the stolen base leaderboards, he finished in the top 25 of stolen bases. He had as many stolen bases as guys like Luis Robert Jr., right? Luis Robert is his 5-tool player and he's incredibly fast. And right, like Stephen Kwan, George Springer, Cody Bellinger, right? All these guys, Randy Rosarina had 22. Like these
I
guys
wonder
are
if he steals more.
speedsters.
I wonder if he steals more now that he's not pitching too. Like
What if he
I'm
goes 50-40?
well, and he's the best. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's insane. But what he 30 bags? Like maybe he goes for 30 because I don't know. I would love to see the numbers of how often he stole bases when he was pitching. I'd imagine they didn't want him doing that. Like it's just exhausting and you're diving and whatever. Now that he's not pitching, I wonder if he tries to sprinkle in more stolen bases. And you know, with the new rules, he was more efficient than he had been in the last 2 years in the stolen base department. So I wonder if he's a little bit more aggressive. If he steals 30 bags, if he goes 40-30, he can go 50-30 realistically in that lineup. I mean, that's the best designated hitter in baseball. I'm sorry, especially if he's sitting in the high 200s, low 300s, and getting on base at a 400 clip. Uh, it's going to be hard to match that, even if you're Yordan Alvarez. And I also think it's important to note, like, yes, he had the elbow issue, but he's been more available the last 3 years as a hitter, especially right. Like as 158 games in 21, 157 games in 22, and 135 last year. Probably could have played through it like Bryce Harper, but he just wanted to get the elbow taken care of because the Angels had nothing to play for. So I mean, he's really just been much more available, which matters, and he's I think going to be very available for them, as a bat this year, especially not having to throw.
I just think it's amazing because, some people, I assume I can already hear them are saying, we think Jordan is a better hitter,
Sure.
right? Which is fine. You could say that. But at the same time, Shohei is fast, which I joke, but does matter. And he had a 180 WRC plus to Jordan's 170 last year. It's
In
amazing
more
what he
games.
can do in more games. He's been more healthy than a guy like Jordan Alvarez, which is insane, Aram. We are making a argument that Shohei Ohtani is the best hitter in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
That's what we're
Yeah.
doing here.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of it, he pitches
Yep. And runs.
and runs. We could just keep glazing the guy, but it's just so utterly amazing. We have never
Yep.
seen an athlete like this in professional sports in the last what? Ever?
Ever. So it makes it unbelievably fun. It makes it lame to rank him as a DH, but I'm kind of glad we get to because he would just kind of be his own like two-way player rank. We'd be ranking him DH and then ranking him as a pitcher, which I'm looking forward to doing that later on, but next year, I guess. But yeah, man, it's gonna be fun in a different way to just see him focus on one thing and see how ridiculously good he can be at that one thing before it's back to doing both again.
I think we kind of figured out our top three hitters in Major League Baseball: Ohtani, Judge, and Jordan. And then I think the number four conversation is probably between Freddie Freeman, Juan Soto, Ronald
Cunha.
Acuna Jr. Maybe you could still throw Mookie in there. I don't know.
I think Mookie's like 1B
On
at
the
this
outside
point.
looking in, I
Yeah,
think it would be
at
between
this
those
stage.
three again for that number four spot and then having the argument surrounding them. You'll hear it later on the Just
Yeah.
Baseball show when we continue our top tens. We got pitchers, we got relievers, we got outfielders, we got everything that you need coming up here on the Just Baseball show. Hopefully, everybody enjoys their weekend. And if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave it a 5-star review. And if you'd be so kind as to leave a written review about what you were enjoying, really, we've been seeing those written reviews come in. We really, really appreciate them. Guys, no, it truly helps out our show. And if you want to subscribe on YouTube, hit that big red subscribe button. It's free. Tons of short form content and all of the podcasts you can watch on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button. And of course, all of this is brought to you by BetMGM, and get your Just Baseball merch in the episode description. That's Arm Layton. I'm Peter Apple, and we will see you next week. And with that, thank you, everybody.